On the day of our 10th wedding anniversary, I unexpectedly transmigrated. At that time, Gu Yuan, that old man, was holding my shoulder and grumbling, asking me if I had married him because of a past favor. This scene plays out every year. I slapped him back, telling him that if he was really bored, he should go to his own factory and step on the sewing machine. Yes, Gu Yuan had been kind to me. 20 years ago, I was almost assaulted by a group of drunk hooligans. He smashed a crate of beer bottles and saved me. But he himself was sent to the police station for excessive self-defense, and he stayed there for 4 years. The day he was released from prison, I went to pick him up, and then began 5 years of persistent pursuit of him. In that era, university students were highly sought after. Everyone else thought I was crazy, ignoring so many talented young men and insisting on chasing after him, a reform-through-labor convict. But my heart was set. I was determined to marry no one but him in this life. My offensive was fierce and long-lasting, and Gu Yuan's attitude towards me finally changed from initial cold rejection to feigned resistance, and then to complete devotion. He was such a little tsundere, how could I not handle him? The two of us supported each other along the way, and his career finally began to take off. Slowly, the voices opposing us being together grew quieter and quieter. More and more people praised my good judgment, praised his loyalty, and praised us as a perfect match. But no one knew how we endured those years. Just before falling asleep, Gu Yuan buried his face in my shoulder, clinging to me. Kaio, it's a pity I didn't get to know you sooner. My nose tingled, and I softly hummed, me too. If time could flow backward, I would definitely meet him at my best age, study and work with him, and then have a passionate romance. I wouldn't need to like that weak and indifferent scumbag ex-boyfriend again, wouldn't need to be played around by my green tea best friend, and even more, wouldn't need to go to a bar at night because of her lie ruining Gu Yuan's promising future. I wanted to learn to be brave and confident and appear before Gu Yuan in my best form. Unexpectedly, the next day when I woke up, I had really returned to 20 years ago. When I saw the familiar yet strange furnishings in the room, I realized that I had truly transmigrated. I did a carp-like flip and jumped off the bed, accidentally bumping into the chair at the edge of the bed, which hurt so much I grimaced. The next second, my parents rushed in from outside the door, their faces full of concern. Kaio, what's wrong? Seeing the cautious expressions on their faces, my eyes immediately turned red. In high school, due to my parents' job transfer, I transferred to the less developed City A and met a green tea best friend who was my desk mate. It was precisely because of her that I, who was originally quite outgoing, became more and more reclusive, eventually being diagnosed with low-intensity depression, causing my parents to worry and toil for me for many years. At that time, my figure was developing quite well, and she told me that the female classmates in the class were all secretly calling me a slutty fox. My grades were good, and I got first place in exams, so she said that my classmates all thought I cheated, and she even tore up my test paper. My family's financial conditions were not bad. When I wore a few beautiful clothes, she said that my classmates all thought I was deliberately showing off my wealth, that I was from a big city and looked down on them. At school, my classmates didn't pay much attention to me, which made me, a newcomer, feel lonely and wronged. Gradually, I no longer dared to wear tailored clothes, no longer dared to get good grades, and spent my days going to school sloppily dressed in oversized school uniforms. In class, I didn't even dare to make eye contact with my classmates when talking, as if their smiles carried a hint of disdain and contempt. Later, when I ran into former high school classmates in the business world, I discovered that all of this was a scheme orchestrated by Zhao Momo. At that time, Zhao Momo said you had a very serious mental illness and told us not to bother you unnecessarily, lest we provoke you. Otherwise, with your grades, how could our classmates let you go? They would have worshipped you as a study god. It turned out that those people I once feared, disliked, and even hated were actually so innocent and sincere. And I, believing without a doubt, hid in the dark and hurt myself. Fortunately, during those years of illness, my parents stayed by my side without a single complaint, giving me unconditional support and meticulous companionship. It's nothing. I held back my tears and intimately grabbed my mother's hand. It's just been too long since I've had Mom's chicken velvet and mushroom soup. I really want to drink it. My old mother was slightly stunned for a moment, then her somewhat tired eyes immediately filled with excitement and joy. Even the corners of her mouth trembled slightly unconsciously when she spoke. Okay, okay, okay. Mom will go buy groceries right away. I'll stew it for you tonight. When she turned around and saw my dad still grinning foolishly, she mercilessly knocked him on the head. What are you spacing out for? Go drive and buy groceries. Meanwhile, I pulled open the wardrobe and pulled out all the beautiful little dresses that were at the bottom of the chest. Today is Friday. If I hurry to the school, I might even run into Gu Yuan at the school gate next door. According to him, he used to be a proper handsome heartthrob. If I don't dress up nicely, what if I'm outshone by the girls next to him? I carefully chose and wore a light yellow long dress that Gu Yuan liked the most, took out the pearl necklace my grandfather gave me, and styled my hair into a simple and generous princess braid in front of the mirror. After doing all this, I admired myself in the mirror for a long time before confidently heading out with an umbrella. Hee hee, Gu Yuan, your dear wife is here. Damn it, I almost didn't make it. Transmigrating into summer is truly too impolite. The sun is so vicious it feels like it wants to bake me to death halfway. It wasn't time for school to end yet, so I planned to shelter from the sun at the CD stall by the gate. Under a half-worn umbrella, a person with their face covered was half-lying on a rocking chair, their skin very fair, a pair of long legs, nowhere to be placed, half-propped on the ground. On their feet were a pair of white flip-flops, the feet slender, with 2 marks from the sun on them, making the surrounding skin look particularly ghastly. Next to them, on a small stool, sat a chubby male student, his face dark, fanning himself while looking down at the book in his hand. Seeing me approach, the little fatty immediately put down his book and greeted me enthusiastically. Little beauty, what kind of CDs do you like? Actually, my original intention was just to shelter from the sun, but he was so eager that I couldn't refuse, so I simply squatted down and flipped through them. And I must say, although the stall was small, his selection was quite good. After carefully flipping through, I really did find a CD of my favorite old-school Idols music. I casually asked, "Are there any more?" The little fatty's smile suddenly stiffened a bit, and he suddenly licked his lips as if his mouth was dry. "Sister, you're probably still in school at your age, right?" I was startled. "Yes, why?" He scratched his head. "Sorry, Brother Yuan doesn't let me sell those CDs to students." Those CDs? I frowned, then instantly understood his meaning when I saw his flushed ears. Immediately after, I felt a bit dumbfounded. Well, I was misunderstood by a little brat as someone who came to buy strange things. I pushed the CD in my hand forward. "You misunderstood, I just wanted to ask if there are any other CDs by this singer." He chuckled. "It's okay, I often encounter girls coming to buy this, it's no big deal." Me? I got annoyed. "I really just came to buy this singer's CD." This time he didn't refute, but still showed a hint of a simple yet polite smile. "All right, I'm not buying." I furiously returned the CD, and this time it was the little fatty who was stunned. "Ha!" The person on the rocking chair suddenly let out a soft laugh. Then, under our gaze, they lazily turned over. "It's okay, you two continue to argue." Is he laughing at me? The little fatty was still foolishly explaining to me, "This is my brother Yuan." I rolled my eyes inwardly. Who cares who he is to you? But school wouldn't be out for a while, and I was embarrassed to just occupy his umbrella for free, so in the end, I still reluctantly bought the CD. Sigh, they're just little brats, how can I argue with them? "Sister, it's so hot, what are you waiting for here?" The little fatty struck up a conversation with me. I don't know where the urge to speak came from, but I continued, "Waiting for my husband." The person on the lounge chair couldn't help but ft and laugh out loud again. I immediately jumped up. "What are you laughing at? Although he doesn't know me yet, and I don't know what he looks like, I will definitely make him fall in love with me." I didn't know if these words were for him or for myself. To be honest, I wasn't sure if Gu Yuan at this age would really like me. The little fatty quickly came out to mediate. "If you don't know what he looks like, there are so many people coming and going at school, you'll have a hard time finding him." "Oh, but do you know his name?" "Our brother Yuan has a wide network, maybe he can help you find him." "Really?" I was a little tempted. After all, there were so many people at school, and Gu Yuan didn't tell me which grade or class he was in at that time. Although the teenager on the lounge chair was very annoying, I still reported Gu Yuan's name, treating a dead horse as if it were alive. Gu Yuan, Gu as in looking around, Yuan as in abyss. AI, isn't this a coincidence? The little fatty excitedly shook the person on the lounge chair. Brother Yuan, turns out she's your little fangirl. What kind of damn little fangirl? I coldly glanced at the person on the lounge chair. This guy's name is also Gu Yuan. Ah, it must be a coincidence of names. Gu Yuan said that, when he was young, he was a favored son of heaven. A favored son of heaven would definitely be studying seriously in the classroom at this time. But my eyes unconsciously took another careful look. This person's white t-shirt was a bit wrinkled from sleeping, and his dark shorts barely reached his knees, revealing a not-so-clear black and white demarcation line. He was very fair, but his face was covered, so I didn't know what he looked like. I looked again, then painfully covered my eyes. Damn it, the more I looked, the more similar he seemed. Who is it? The person on the lounge chair finally woke up. He first stretched himself out at great length, then, as if possessed by a lazy demon, slowly lifted the baseball cap covering his face. He propped his hands on both sides of the chair and squinted as he got up. Perhaps the sunlight was too dazzling. He half squinted, reaching out to tousle his somewhat messy hair. I was instantly shocked and frozen in place. This face couldn't be described as a bit similar. It was identical, practically a scaled-down version. Especially those perpetually half-squinted fox eyes, which used to appear refined and warm, now inexplicably carried a hint of roguishness. Oh, Gu Yuan, you really dared to brag? You said you were a highly acclaimed prodigy, yet you're actually setting up a stall outside the school gate selling pirated cassette tapes. And you're even in a partnership. Gu Yuan didn't notice the intense emotions in my eyes. He asked with a smile, "Little sister, do you know me?" I sneered inwardly. More than just knowing you, I even know about the round mole on your waist. But I held back. I feigned innocence, shaking my head, and revealed what I thought was the most charming smile, sweet and endearing. I didn't know you before, but I'm about to get to know you right now. Gu Yuan smiled nonchalantly. You want to know me? Sure, but buy a CD first. I waved the item in my hand. I already bought one. How can that be the same? He leaned against the shelf beside him with a smile. Could it be that in little sister's heart, I'm not even worth a CD? Is this emotional blackmail? This must be emotional blackmail. Gritted my teeth. Fine, then I'll buy another one. Which kind do you want to buy? He looked at me, his eyes filled with a smile. He clearly said nothing, yet I read a hint of mockery in his gaze. He was deliberately making fun of me for buying that fragment just now. Do you think I'm scared of you? My expression remained unchanged. Give me one with a bit of color. Oh, he feigned surprise, grinning. Little sister is quite wild. Still a bit less than you. I said these words sincerely. I didn't expect Gu Yuan, at such a young age, to be so good at flirting. He rummaged through the items, then suddenly blurted out, Little sister, what year of high school are you in? Second year, why? He didn't answer me, continuing to flip through the items. After searching for a few minutes, he finally slapped a CD onto the counter. The CD cover was very bold. It was clearly from the famous Family Education series. Here, this one is more suitable for you. After saying that, he gave an improper smile. I was truly impressed by this scoundrel. Didn't he say he wouldn't sell this kind of CD to students? But the words were already out. I could only pay with a constipated expression, then, with lightning speed, stuffed the CD into my bag. With my back to the school gate, even though students hadn't been dismissed yet, I felt as if everyone was looking at me. The bag in my hand started to feel hot, as if it would slip from my grasp the next second. I've bought the CD, now let's get to know each other. I extended my hand. My name is Sukayo Kao. I'm your future girlfriend, and I'll also be your future wife. You need to remember that well. Gu Yuan was stunned for a moment, stifling a laugh. Remembered, hurry home. I pulled out my phone, then tell me your contact information. He spread his hands. I don't have a phone. No way, I remember his family's financial situation was always quite good. How could he not even have a phone? So you were just purely tricking me into buying a CD? I was a bit angry. Is this crappy stall of yours relying on you, the great deity, to run your business every day? The little chubby guy interjected just in time. Actually, this is my stall. Gu Yuan almost couldn't hold back my hand from laughing. He casually raised an eyebrow. How about this? Next time, if you come here to buy a CD again, I'll give you my contact information. How's that? Another upsell? Good heavens, is he treating others like fools just because they haven't gotten angry yet? I glared at him indignantly. Then you wait. You just wait and see how I'll deal with you once I catch you, you dog. When I got home, my parents were still bustling about in the kitchen with great energy. Seeing me walk in from outside, they both looked at me with disbelief. Oh, indeed. Normally, I would have locked myself in my room without saying a word by now. Let alone going out, even coming out for a meal would be an effort. Don't worry, Mom and Dad, IV thought things through. It's not a big deal. IV caused you worry before, but I'll pick myself up from now on. I poured myself a glass of water and gulped it down in one go. Seeing Dad come out of the kitchen, I quickly called out to him. Oh, right, Dad, I want to transfer schools. I remembered Dad had mentioned transferring schools to me a long time ago, but I wanted to keep Xiao Momo, my only friend, so I never agreed. It's about time. Which school does our Kaio want to go to? To the second middle school next door, the sooner the better. It would be best if I could catch up with their summer remedial classes. Because my mental state was much better, our family was very happy at the dinner table tonight. After eating, I said goodbye to my parents and went into my room to study. After all, I had fallen behind in quite a few subjects due to my illness, and if I didn't work hard, it would be difficult to return to my peak performance. Before I entered the room, Mom called out to me. Oh, right, Momo called to ask if you're going to school on Monday. She said it's important. My heart gave a cold laugh. What could be so important? Simply that she had no money and wanted to fleece me, the big sucker. Xiao Momo's family circumstances weren't particularly good, but because she studied diligently and was pretty, she had good popularity in class, and I also liked her very much. In the past, whenever she asked me to borrow money, I never hesitated, and I didn't even care if she paid it back in the end. But she, on the other hand, really treated me like a sheep, just grabbing and pulling at will. Today she had no money for food, tomorrow her clothes were tattered, and later, feeling too embarrassed to ask herself, she even used my ex-boyfriend's name to ask. At that time, Xiao Momo brought me a notebook, saying how Yuren specifically lent it to me, saying he wanted to be friends with me. I opened the notebook and found several small notes clipped inside, all written with words of encouragement for me. The handwriting was elegant, the strokes warm, making it hard not to feel a good impression. And every time after that, I could almost always find those few notes carrying so many thoughts inside. Gradually, I was attracted by this big boy who seemed so unapproachable, but was delicate and warm-hearted inside. For me at that time, every bit of kindness from others seemed incredibly precious, not to mention Yuren could be considered half a class heartthrob in class. Which young girl doesn't have a crush? Finally, it seemed we vaguely got together with Xiao Momo's assistance. Now that I think about it, Yuren never officially confessed to me, and his attitude towards me on weekdays was very indifferent, at least not as sincere and gentle as on the notes. At that time, I was still overjoyed, thinking that even if everyone else disliked me, I at least had the two of them. So when the conspiracy was torn open before my eyes, I realized the truth was so bloody. There were no great heroes and no little angels. Yuren didn't give me the notes, and he denied liking me. He just listened to what his goddess said, self-righteously satisfying the thoughts of a mentally ill girl, bestowing upon me a perfunctory kindness. And my good best friend was even more unfathomable to me. Perhaps it was jealousy of my perfect and happy family, jealousy of my privileged life, or perhaps it was unwillingness that her position as top student and class beauty was so easily snatched away by me. But none of that matters. Whatever the reason, it cannot be an excuse for her to deceive and hurt me. I will never forget Yuren, who stood far away that day, watching me being violated but not daring to step forward. And even more, I will never forget that strange young man who stood in front of me, covered in blood. On Monday, I put on some beautiful makeup and took my dad's car to school. As soon as I got out of the car, I felt all sorts of gazes directed at me, all curiously appraising me. Indeed, the students at our school dressed very simply. Someone as flamboyant as me was probably the first. But I was, after all, a woman who had seen better days, and I still felt this makeup wasn't refined enough. However, when their eyes landed on me, my body still instinctively wanted to hunch my shoulders and back. The past self-consciousness and timidity were ingrained in my muscles. Even with a changed mindset now, I still felt a lingering fear. I forcefully straightened my muscle memory, slightly raised my chin, and smiled brightly at the various gazes. Then, under everyone's watchful eyes, I leisurely bought a steamer of my favorite steamed rice rolls, took I am the queen steps, and entered the classroom with my head held high and chest out. As soon as I entered, Zhao Meimai came to greet me. I didn't expect that after so many years apart, I could still recognize her in the crowd at first glance. Kyo, you're here. Although Zhao Meimai's words were directed at me, her eyes were staring intently at my breakfast. I casually waved her hand away. Yes, long time no see, Meimai. The classmates' eyes were subtly fixed on me, and a hint of admiration flashed in the eyes of a few. I pretended to unintentionally raise my voice, announcing to the class as if making a declaration. I'm much better now, and I can attend school normally from now on. Zhao Meimai was a bit stunned. Fortunately, her reaction was very quick, and she immediately put on a smile again. That's great, I'm really happy for you. I nodded, walked past her directly, and sat down in my seat, then began to concentrate on eating my steamed rice rolls. Tasting this familiar flavor again, I felt as if I had returned home, and my sense of happiness was overflowing. During this time, Zhao Meimai looked my way a few times, wanting to speak but hesitating, but I pretended not to see her. Finally, she pulled my sleeve with a displeased expression. Kyo, didn't you bring breakfast for he urine today? I feigned a sudden realization. Oh no, I really forgot. She swallowed, tentatively saying, It's not that long until class starts, why don't we go buy some together? I looked at the time and smacked my lips. Forget it, there are only 10 minutes left. He won't starve to death if he misses one meal. Zhao Meimai's eyes widened. Isn't that good? What's not good about it? I carelessly stuffed the last steamed rice roll into my mouth, my cheeks puffed out. I glanced at her again and chuckled softly. He's my boyfriend. I don't feel bad, so why do you? Zhao Meimai was stunned again. She probably couldn't figure out why, after only 1 or 2 weeks of not seeing me, my mind suddenly became as sharp as if it had been waxed. While she was stunned, I pulled out my math textbook and placed it on the desk. All right, I was just kidding. Don't take it to heart. Focus on your studies. Zhao Meimai probably wasn't in the mood for this class. But the more anxious she was, the happier I became. After one class, not only did I review the knowledge points, but I also enthusiastically raised my hand to answer several questions, shocking both the bald homeroom teacher and my classmates. After class, Zhao Meimai insisted on dragging me to the snack bar to buy something. He urine must still be hungry, why don't we buy him something? HMPH, she really loves to provide for him. I didn't bring breakfast for one day, and it seems 2 people are starving. All right then, you call him along. He urine heard this and gave me a cold glance, getting up somewhat reluctantly. I looked him up and down like I was looking at a piglet. Although his face wasn't bad, I don't know why he always had a sullen expression, as if someone owed him something. Walking on the road, I couldn't help but lament that humans are truly a species with a notorious double standard. When they like someone, they act one way. When they don't, they act another. If Gu Yuan had this kind of dog-like demeanor in my eyes, he would probably be an ice-cold, aloof male god. Thinking of this, the image of young Gu Yuan, whom I saw a few days ago, suddenly popped into my mind. Tusk, he didn't seem much better. Like a hooligan lying there, he looked like a pure big fool. Oh. The CDs I bought a few days ago are still at home. I need to find some time to see what his taste is like. Kyo, slow down. It wasn't until Zhao Meimai's voice came from behind that I snapped back to reality. Turning my head, I realized I had been so engrossed in my thoughts that my legs were like fire wheels, running far ahead, leaving the 2 of them walking side by side behind me. Lam Tuan Di Tusk, don't even mention it, they really are a good match. When we arrived at the snack counter, I casually looked around inside a few times. Since there was nothing I liked to eat, I just walked out directly. The remaining 2 of them stayed inside, picking and choosing, and finally selected a pile of snacks that Zhao Momo liked to eat. When it was time to pay, Zhao Momo, smiling broadly, held the items and tilted her head, looking at me at the door with an expectant expression. I deliberately shouted, "What are you spacing out for? Pay!" Zhao Momo was completely stunned this time. In just a short while, she had been dazed in front of me several times like a simpleton. Indeed, according to the past, I should have cheerfully paid for her and then carried this pile of stuff to the classroom. But times have changed. A trace of awkwardness flashed across Zhao Momo's face. Without needing to think, I knew she simply didn't have that much money. Now the pressure was on He-Yurin. He furrowed his brows, pursed his lips, looking a bit pained, but still paid the money without a word. Well, looking at this, it doesn't seem like much love, not even happy to pay a little money. However, seeing these two looking so frustrated and unlucky, my heart was truly soaring with satisfaction. This feeling of satisfaction lasted until school was dismissed. Zhao Momo, carrying her backpack, awkwardly twisted and turned, wanting to hitch a ride in my car, but I refused her outright. Tonight I'm going to see a friend, so I won't go home with you. Without waiting for her to speak, I slung my backpack on and ran off without looking back. What a joke, who still cares about you? One sentence hung in my mind. Tonight, I absolutely must get Gu Yuan's number. By the time I chased him to that small, rundown shop, most of the school students had already left. It seemed business was good today. The chubby kid was bowing his head, counting money, and beaming with joy. I tapped on the shelf. "Little boss, where's your yuanji?" The chubby kid looked up, saw it was me, and was also very surprised. "Sister, you're here again. Yuanji isn't here at this time. He should be at the internet cafe." "Well, he hasn't done a single proper thing until now." I flicked a CD on the shelf. "Oh, new stock?" "Yes, it just arrived today. My Yuanji went to pick it out." Yuanji, I didn't realize this little brother was so devoted to Gu Yuan. "Is this stall something you and Gu Yuan opened together?" The chubby kid looked a bit embarrassed. "Actually, I opened it." "Yuanji is a good person. He often comes to help me watch the stall." And conveniently sells his good looks to attract business for you," I added in my mind. "Yuanji has exceptionally good taste. Everything he brings in sells particularly well. If it weren't for him, I definitely wouldn't have been able to gather enough for my mom's surgery fees." I raised an eyebrow, looking at the chubby kid with some surprise. Looking at his age, he should originally be happily sitting in a classroom, but now he's prematurely burdened with the weight of life. "You're also very capable," I praised him sincerely. Then I took out 2 of the latest CDs from the rack and handed them forward. "I'll take 2. The chubby kid was very happy. "You're a regular customer. Next time you come, I'll give you a discount." "Oh, you're quite good at business." "My Yuanji taught me." The chubby kid's voice was filled with unconcealed pride and admiration. "Then let me ask you something. Your Yuanji is so capable, why doesn't he go to school?" "This." The chubby kid scratched his head. "He dropped out in his 2nd year of high school." "Ah, dropped out?" Seeing my puzzled expression, this loyal fan of Gu Yuan hurriedly explained. "Actually, Yuanji is very smart, his grades have always been very good, and the teachers all said he would definitely be able to get into university." I no longer held any expectations for what this fan, with his 7-foot-thick filter, had to say. "Oh, then, what did this prospective university student drop out for?" The chubby kid stammered for a long time, finally squeezing out a sentence. "Anyway, he has his difficulties." HMPH, putting on a show here. I took the bag from his hand. "All right, then tell me which internet cafe Gu Yuan is at. I'll go ask him myself." Following his directions, I found an internet cafe. As soon as I walked in, I was almost deterred by the smoke inside. Good heavens, do these people smoke pipe tobacco? That layer of gas on top, like dry ice, couldn't possibly all be cigarette smoke, could it? Looking around, the entire dark internet cafe was hazy and murky, with a layer of white smoke floating on top, mixed with the smell of instant noodles and sweat, occasionally wafting a whiff of sour foot odor. The electric fan word, mixing the smells together, which was quite intoxicating. I pinched my nose and walked inside, finally finding Gu Yuan in the innermost corner. This time he had changed into a black t-shirt, slouched in his chair, looking completely nonchalant. His slender fingers, however, were flying up and down with enough force to shatter the keyboard beneath his hand. I was about to go up and talk to him when I heard his lazy voice say, "All right, Auntie, I'll play with you again next time." For some reason, that "Auntie has a little money" emoji suddenly appeared in my mind. No way, no way. Gu Yuan is still so young and already doesn't want to work hard. Gu Yuan, I called out his name with a hint of anger. Gu Yuan was cracking his knuckles when he heard someone call him. He turned his head, a little surprised. After seeing me, he first froze, then pulled off his headphones. "All right, little sister, you're quite persistent." As if in a huff, I pulled 2 CDs from my bag. "Less nonsense, you said it, CDs for your number." Gu Yuan looked at the CDs, then at me, with an expression that said, someone actually took me seriously. Reluctant as he was, he didn't procrastinate. He picked up a pen from the table, bit the pen cap, and scribbled on the packaging of my CDs. As he wrote, he said, "Take it and go home. Don't come here again." I was a little overwhelmed by the unexpected favor, yet also a little angry. "Do you just give your number to anyone who asks?" He stopped writing, his expression a little helpless. What did I do now? His tone was as if he were indulging his unreasonably demanding girlfriend. I was appeased by his expression. It was at this moment that the young man before me and the Gu Yuan from my life miraculously and perfectly overlapped. "I don't care, I am going to try calling. What if you ray tricking me?" Sure enough, the next second, the internet cafe owner's phone rang. A man's loud voice came through the microphone. "Who is it?" I quickly hung up the phone. When I turned around, Gu Yuan beside me was stifling his laughter so hard his face was red. As soon as the call ended, he immediately burst into unrestrained laughter. "Little girl, you ray very clever." I said in a nasty tone, "Are you a man? How can you not keep your word?" He had laughed enough, but a faint smile still lingered at the corner of his mouth. "I am not tricking you, that phone really used to be mine." "Oh, so now you use it to pay for internet fees?" He snorted with laughter again. "That's my dad. My family owns this internet cafe. After I stopped studying, he took the phone back." "Huh, who is he?" My expression was as if I had seen a ghost. This middle-aged man, who looked like he could devour 3 caddies of food in one sitting, was actually my gentle and amiable future father-in-law. I patted off non-existent dust from my body. Then I'll go say hello to my future father-in-law. "Gu Yuan." He was so angry he laughed. "Are you getting too deep into character?" Gu Yuan, this person, when he's joking around, he's very amiable, but if he gets seriously angry, he can be quite intimidating. I stomped my feet a few times on the spot, then sat down like a chick. Indeed, I was a bit too eager. He wasn't too close to me yet. I needed to take it slow. But I still looked at him very seriously and said, "But I really will be your wife in the future, don't you believe it?" Gu Yuan, who had just managed to maintain a serious expression, broke character again in a second. "I say, why do you insist on pestering me? I say, you'll be my husband in the future, and we'll be very much in love." He was amused. "Little girl, you ray certainly not shy." I looked at him seriously. "Why be shy with your own husband?" I don't know if it was my imagination, but I seemed to see Gu Yuan's ears slowly turn red. "Are you blushing?" He rubbed his nose, tusk, a little bit. I didn't expect Gu Yuan to actually admit it so generously. He weighed his words, moved his lips. Finally, he smiled and said to the point, "You are indeed very bold." I took it as a compliment. And then, seizing the opportunity, I asked him, "Then can you tell me why you dropped out of school before?" He was a little surprised. "Who said I dropped out?" "Ah, even the little fatty would lie. That was a forced withdrawal. You ray so noble, you ray so amazing, you were forced to withdraw." He didn't answer my question, instead leaning back leisurely, his arm resting on the chair. "But none of that is your business. I've given you the number, so if you have nothing else to do, hurry home." I retorted stubbornly, "You mind your own business." Calling me little girl all day, he's only 1 or 2 years older than me, but he calls me as if we ray from different generations. "Oh," he squinted and glanced at me. "Just now you were calling me husband so sweetly, and now you ray telling me to mind my own business." I couldn't help but cover my face and laugh. Damn it, this guy's sarcastic demeanor is quite amusing. All right then, I am going back. I gathered my things and started walking out. Gu Yuan, for some reason, also stood up. He twisted his waist and stretched his neck, his joints cracking, sounding like the old man next door. My face showed a hint of disdain. "Can't you act like a young person?" He looked innocent. What did I do now? I rolled my eyes. The husband I chose, I'll marry him even if I have to kneel. As I walked out, Gu Yuan also shuffled out behind me. Although he was only 17 or 18 years old, his height already exceeded 1.8 meters. His shoulders were very broad and thin, lean but not scrawny, and he had a slight hunchback from long hours hunched over a computer. He just slowly followed behind me, neither speaking nor looking at me, just aimlessly trailing along, more like an old man out for an evening stroll. "Lamb Twindy, oh, worried about me?" I deliberately teased him. He was too lazy to look at me. "No choice who made me so annoyingly eager myself, I just had to bring you back." Gu Yuan was just that kind of dog-like personality. His whole body, apart from that one place, was all about his sharp tongue. "Isn't it that you've already fallen for me?" He choked a bit, then laughed. Such a good mindset, life must be very fulfilling, right? HMPH, it's all right, I snorted. After walking a few more steps, I felt like I had fallen into a disadvantage again, feeling uncomfortable inside. I turned my head again, stating precisely, "Don't think I don't know, being able to send me back must make your heart blossom with joy." Gu Yuan completely couldn't hold back. Yes, yes, I'll even wake up laughing in the middle of the night today. After defeating Gu Yuan, I was so elated I felt like a rooster that had won a fight, strutting arrogantly ahead. When we reached downstairs, he waved at me from a distance, his hands in his pockets, looking inexplicably cool again. Sometimes handsome, sometimes not, quite unpredictable. Don't go to internet cafes in the future. All sorts of people go to that place. I stared straight at him, a hint of playfulness in my voice. Then what about you? Are you a bad person? He chuckled, a hint of exasperation in his tone. How come I feel like the bad person in your mouth isn't the same kind as the bad person in mine? I couldn't help but laugh either. Although Gu Yuan could flirt now, it was just a verbal skill. Deep down, he was still just a naive little boy. I hummed twice. Don't worry, I'll still go often before I catch you. With that, I hummed a little tune and went upstairs. As soon as I opened the door, I found my mom and dad hugging each other, crying their eyes out. Dad's snot was hanging, not quite sucked back in, which was really embarrassing. When our 6 eyes met, all 3 of us were too mortified to speak. It was over. I had forgotten to report back when I came home late tonight. For the next half hour, my dad was busy calling teachers, friends, and relatives to report our safety. Meanwhile, I sat obediently on the sofa, getting scolded. Tell me, how old are you? Coming home late and not knowing to make a phone call? Your phone's dead and you don't know to charge it. Do you know how worried your dad and I were about you? I guiltily lowered my head. I was used to going out at night, and having only recently transmigrated, I had forgotten about the curfew in a short amount of time. Dad, Mom, I am sorry, I won't do it again. And Zhao Meima even specifically called to tell us. Otherwise, we would have been even more clueless. After saying that, my mom sat down beside me, her expression serious. She said you seem to have gone to find a male classmate, is that true? Huh, my fists clenched. Oh, you Zhao Meimai, making up stories on the fly, yet somehow predicting things like a god. I nonchalantly pulled out a CD from my school bag. No, I just felt bored and went to buy a CD. I took a walk on the way back, didn't he do anything else? My mom looked at me, half believing, half doubting, really. I took out the CD. It's just that the study pressure has been quite high recently, and I wanted to relax a bit. As soon as I said this, my mom immediately looked at me with affection, not even letting me wash the dishes. I escaped a scolding and slipped into my room. Holding the CD in my hand, I remembered the family Tutor limited edition disc I bought a few days ago and immediately found the DVD player bought for my video lessons. Let me see what kind of perverted stuff you've been watching behind that innocent facade before I could even put it in. My mom suddenly opened the door, walking in with an apologetic look. Honey, Mommy just reflected on herself and felt that what I said earlier was really too harsh. So I wanted to come over. Her gaze landed squarely on the cover of my CD, and the words in her mouth suddenly got stuck. Perhaps she felt what she said earlier wasn't harsh enough. The atmosphere in the room instantly became extremely awkward. My mind raced, trying to come up with a reasonable excuse, but unexpectedly my mom withdrew her gaze, took 2 steps back with a calm expression. If you're studying, then Mommy won't disturb you. Go to bed early. With that, she closed the door without looking back. I looked down at the CD in my hand, suddenly feeling that neither putting it away nor putting it in was right. Forget it, I've already lost face, I might as well take a quick look. As the screen flickered, a beautiful teacher in professional attire appeared on screen under my expectant gaze. She began her English lecture in fluent English. Then lecture, lecture, lecture. 10 minutes later, I completely understood. Damn it, I fell for Gu Yuan's grand scheme. This was an innocent English lecture video disguised in a hot outer shell. I was both annoyed and amused, even feeling as if a righteous light would sound beside me in the next second. What was even more speechless was that, when I went to the bathroom at night, passing by my parents' bedroom, I vaguely heard my mom say worriedly, "Do you think we should coax Kyo to go back to the hospital for a follow-up checkup? I think her pressure seems really a bit too much now, me." The next day at school, Zhao Meimai, who was sitting next to me, kept looking at me so much so that I couldn't concentrate on my studies. I got straight to the point. Meimai, did you say something? Actually, I had already guessed about 80 or 90% of it. Yesterday, I was afraid my aunt and uncle would worry, so I called them. Last night. They didn't blame you, did they? Ah, are you wishing I got a good scolding? Oh, you mean that, it's nothing. I already apologized to my mom last night. She treasures me so much, how could she bear to scold me? A hint of embarrassment flashed across her face. After a moment of silence, she leaned closer and whispered, Then you? Who did you go to see yesterday? Actually, I was a bit surprised. I didn't expect that what she cared about most was who I went out with last night. I vaguely replied, a friend, then asked, What's wrong? Was it? He urine? Huh, I was a bit stunned. What's wrong with him? Then you weren't with him last night? There was even a faint hint of joy in her tone. I immediately understood. It seemed he urine also didn't go home with her yesterday. Case closed, she was afraid I would steal her simp. Sometimes I really don't understand. If she actually cares about he urine a little, then why would she want him to pretend to be my boyfriend? Doesn't she know there's a possibility of feelings developing over time? Does she really like this kind of sneaky thrill? Or does she really not take me seriously? Then she's too disrespectful to me. So I acted very green tea, pretending to be shy and smiling, making a SHHH gesture. That's a secret. As expected, Zhao Meimai's expression began to turn ugly. I snickered, truly bringing trouble upon herself. The next class was physics. The physics teacher came in and immediately started handing out yesterday's quiz papers. Although my physics grades used to be very good because I hadn't picked up much, I only scored an average mark. But even so, compared to my previous intentionally low scores, it was a huge improvement. The physics teacher was a kind and beautiful older sister. Not only did she praise me fiercely in class, but she also proudly announced that the last question on the paper was one she had set herself, an adapted problem. And in the entire grade, only I, Sukayo Keo, had solved it. If it was a unique solution, then cheating was impossible. The classmates in the classroom all cast glances of admiration or surprise at me. I swept my gaze around and saw a hint of surprise also appear on He Yurin's face. Zhao Meimai was even more stunned, not knowing what to say. Good thing I used to love studying some rare and strange exam questions in my free time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to fake it this time, hee. Let's invite student Sukayo Keo to explain this problem to us. Thunderous applause erupted in the classroom. Under everyone's gaze, I confidently went to the front, analyzing the problem's idea and knowledge points clearly and logically, stealing all the limelight. At the end, I humbly stated that the reason I could solve this problem was because my 3 friends brought back several sets of self-designed exam papers from H City No. 1 high school, which were very helpful for improving grades. Upon hearing this, the physics teacher's eyes lit up. H City No. 1 high school was then recognized nationwide as a barometer for college entrance exam questions. Getting their exam papers was truly like adding wings to a tiger for the college entrance exam appendix. I generously stated, I am willing to bring the papers and share them with everyone so we can make progress together. This time, the applause in the class was even more enthusiastic and sincere. Actually, I had previously asked my 3 friends to get 3 sets in total. Originally, it was 1 set each for me, Zhao Meimai and He Yurin, but now those 2 shouldn't expect to monopolize them. Perhaps my exam papers had an effect. After class, my usually quiet seat suddenly became lively. There were requests for me to re-explain what wasn't understood on the blackboard, but most of all, they asked if I had recovered from my illness. I glanced at Zhao Meimai. She was biting her lip tightly, her face clearly not right. Ah, now she knows fear. Too bad it's too late. I pretended not to understand. What illness? I've never been sick. Who's so boring as to curse me with illness? Everyone's gaze changed. A female classmate looked at Zhao Meimai and asked somewhat strangely, but Meimai said earlier that you were sick and told us not to provoke you unnecessarily. Zhao Meimai's face instantly turned as pale as paper. I stared at Zhao Meimai's expression and smiled hypocritically. Perhaps Meimai cares about me too much. After all, longing can become a sickness. When you long for someone, you feel like the other person is sick. But if you hadn't said anything today, I would have thought you disliked me as an outsider and deliberately didn't talk to me. That's not the case at all. Everyone waved their hands, continuously conveying goodwill and concern to me. And Zhao Meimai finally lowered her head under everyone's suspicious gazes. At noon, taking advantage of the lunch break, I went to deliver the test papers to the physics teacher. I happened to encounter several other physics teachers in the office. They praised my act of submitting the test papers, and at the same time, complimented me for being so unassuming, even being able to solve the final, most challenging question from last year's National High School Physics competition. I secretly clicked my tongue. This question was actually that difficult. In last year's competition, only that student named Gu Yuan from the second high school next door solved this question, earning their school first place. I was so envious at the time. My ears caught the name Gu Yuan. Teacher, are you talking about Gu Yuan, who was expelled from the second high school next door? Yes. A hint of regret appeared on the physics teacher's face. It's a pity, such a good talent, he just stopped studying. Then do you know why he was expelled? The physics teacher paused and somewhat awkwardly scratched his head. How should I put it? I heard it was because of boy-girl issues. You say, these are just young kids, it's really exasperating. Impossible, I blurted out instinctively. The physics teacher was startled, and then he also laughed. I also feel like there might be some misunderstanding. I've seen that child, he doesn't seem like someone who would do such a thing. Of course, he wouldn't do such a thing. He was that passionate young man who would risk his life to save others when he saw them being violated. How could he do such a beastly thing? When I returned to the classroom, my mind was full of this matter, and I didn't even notice Zhao Meimai muttering in front of me several times. Finally, when school was dismissed, I grabbed my backpack and was about to leave, but Zhao Meimai pulled me back. Kyo, I thought she was going to apologize hypocritically, so I casually humored her. It's nothing, I forgive you. Zhao Meimai was stunned, and then, as if she reacted, she blushed. But she still held onto my clothes and wouldn't let go. Is there anything else? My tone was already a bit impatient. Kyo, today is Yurin's birthday. How could you forget? You said you wanted to give him a surprise at the birthday party tonight. She looked at me expectantly, her eyes full of where's the surprise. I felt an inexplicable surge of annoyance. Zhao Meimai was just such a person. To build good relationships with others, every time someone had a birthday or a party, she would boast, promising to bring a surprise to others in our names. In the end, she got the favor, and I paid the money. She was seen in a good light by the exaggerated party, while I was seen as the spendthrift, and I even happily thought that they were trying to help me integrate into the class and make friends. This time, Yurin's birthday party was certainly no exception. If I didn't bring anything then, she would lose a lot of face. Thinking of this, my anger couldn't be suppressed at all. Are these two people annoying or what? Can they do something decent? Why do they have to discuss me? I even felt that the time I had wasted on them before had become ridiculous. I replied coldly, I forgot to bring it. I have something to do today, let us talk about the gift another day. What, you forgot? Zhao Meimai's eyes widened, and her voice even carried a clear hint of blame. How could you forget such an important thing? Yurin will definitely be angry if you do this. I remembered the days when I painstakingly tried to please Yurin only to receive his cold words, and suddenly I didn't want to tolerate it anymore. I smiled faintly. Since that's the case, then let us just break up. Zhao Meimai looked as if she hadn't heard clearly, her eyes wide. What? I said I want to break up. I looked at her with a calm expression. You tell Yurin, just say that I, Kyo, am not serving him anymore, I want to break up with him. Upon arriving at the internet cafe, I was informed that Gu Yuan had gone out to pick up goods. After a long wait, a small delivery truck finally pulled up to the shop's entrance. As the car door opened, Gu Yuan's voice drifted in. Dad, the goods are here. I stood at the doorway, glancing outside. Gu Yuan was inside the truck, unloading boxes of instant noodles and beetle nuts. The summer dusk still held a vibrant heat. The boxes hitting the ground kicked up a layer of dust, carrying warm air that seeped into his old black t-shirt. A few drops of sweat fell into the dust with his movements. He lifted the corner of his shirt, wiped the sweat from his face, and then, like a hooligan, rolled up the hem of his clothes. I called out to him, Gu Yuan. He turned his head, calmly pulled down his rolled-up shirt and asked, What are you doing here? Looking for you. I handed him a packet of tissues. Wipe your sweat. No need. As he spoke, he picked up a small knife from the truck, cut open a box of instant noodles, and pulled out 2 packets. Hungry? Want a little something? Not hungry, I'm full. Afraid he might misunderstand, I added with a mischievous smile, looking at your figure made me full. His hands, which were unloading, paused. He sat up and tugged at his clothes. What's so good about a bare shoulder? I said sweetly. As long as it's you, it's beautiful. Gu Yuan, and by the time the unloading was finished, it was completely dark. He looked at the sky. Won't your parents worry if you go back so late? I blinked. I told my mom I was doing homework at a classmate's house. He looked around the internet cafe, then squinted at me. Doing homework here? What, are you complaining I'm not paying for internet access? He shook his head helplessly. Come on in. Gu Yuan led me into a small cubicle inside. The cubicle was very small, containing only an old desk and a rocking chair. A thin blanket was draped over the rocking chair, crumpled together in a messy heap, looking like it had just been slept in not long ago. Right here, tell me if you're hungry. Just as I was about to ask him about his dropping out, someone outside called for him. He turned on the fan, dropped a "find me if you need anything," and went out. I put down my school bag and took the opportunity to survey the cramped space. The desktop was very clean. On it were several high school textbooks, and a half-finished test paper was laid out. I remembered his confident statement about being forced to drop out, and suddenly I understood what he meant. As if by some mischievous impulse, I reached out and pulled out the test paper. The owner's handwriting was truly not beautiful. It belonged to the type of student who would get full marks deducted for the appearance of their paper. Most of the problems only had answers written, and the few difficult problems had rough drafts scribbled down. I took out my pen and calculated a few problems, finding that the accuracy rate was surprisingly high. As expected of my man, hee. I then tilted my head to look at the reclining chair next to me, desperately suppressing my urge to climb onto it and lie down for a bit. Just then, Gu Yuan returned, making me applaud myself fiercely for my patience. He was holding a bowl of instant noodles and looked at me suspiciously. Is it really hot? Why is your face red? I turned my head guiltily. A little, I guess. He placed the instant noodles in front of me, then pulled out a thick notebook and put it on the other side of the desk. My sharp eyes caught the words "account book" flashing on it. You can do accounting too? It's just keeping track of income and expenses. I suddenly remembered the time he accompanied the auntie to play games and asked him, does that include income from accompanying players? What accompanying players? Like accompanying the auntie to play games, coaxing her to earn some hard-earned money. He immediately reacted to what I was saying, then smirked. Yes, this whole book is full of it. I pouted. I don't believe it, unless you let me see. He scoffed. You really don't treat yourself as an outsider. Although he said that, he still put the account book into my hands, but it's fine to let you see. I casually flipped through it, pretending to be nonchalant, but was shocked by the hundreds and thousands of yuan in income listed on it. At that time, 100 yuan was not a small sum. The cash flow on his account book was truly astonishingly high. Damn it, Gu Yuan must have found a very rich sugar mommy. Did you earn all this from playing games? I looked at him in disbelief. He first put on a serious face and agreed, but seeing my shocked expression, he finally couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. Of course I was lying to you. He pointed at the income listed. The red pen is for my family's internet cafe, and the blue pen is for my uncle's clothing factory. I stared at him blankly. Then what about your accompanying players? He laughed. What accompanying players? That female customer's new boyfriend likes to play games and wanted to learn how to play for me. Oh. So that's how it was. That's quite a pity then, I said, feigning disappointment and pouting. But Gu Yuan's eyes were still fixed on me, smiling faintly, which made me a little flustered. I changed the subject indirectly. Then your uncle's factory earns quite a lot, huh? Lam Twindy, still working, recently trying to do business with foreigners, earning a little profit. My eyes lit up at the mention of this. Foreign trade, I know about that. He glanced sideways. Oh, I didn't expect you to know so much. I chuckled because we got rich doing foreign trade. I just didn't expect that Gu Yuan, at such a young age, had already come into contact with the foreign trade industry. Yuan Ji. I was about to elaborate when a sweet girl's voice suddenly came from outside the internet cafe, and I could vaguely hear the sound of girls laughing. Gu Yuan went out, and I was restless inside, unable to focus on studying. What was the relationship between that girl and him? How could she call him so intimately? My heart was troubled and confused. After struggling for a while, I decided to pretend to get a drink and go out to see. As soon as I stepped out, I saw a group of students gathered around the table outside, some still wearing school uniforms, both boys and girls. Gu Yuan was sitting right in the middle, tilting his head and talking to them about something. After he finished, everyone laughed. The atmosphere was very lively for a short while. I looked at the faint smile on Gu Yuan's profile and suddenly felt that he was truly a very remarkable person. In my impression, he never seemed to have appeared in any dejected state, whether it was dropping out of school or going to prison. He seemed to possess a magical magnetic field. Anyone staying by his side would be infected and become more open-minded. A sharp-eyed girl noticed me and shouted, "Look quickly, Brother Yuan has a beauty hidden away." In an instant, everyone's eyes converged on me in unison. I stood at the door, a little embarrassed. "Hello, everyone. Quickly confess, who is this little beauty? Could she be the future boss lady?" Gu Yuan glanced at me. "Don't, I wouldn't dare." The girl laughed at him. "HMPH, you wouldn't dare. If you wouldn't dare, why did you let her go into your private room? Usually, we want to go in and take a look, but you don't allow it." "She went in to do homework. What would you go in for? To lie on the chair and drool? You're finished." Several people laughed so hard they swayed back and forth. But I keenly noticed that in a corner, a girl kept frowning, her eyes intentionally or unintentionally looking towards me. A woman's sixth sense told me that this girl's relationship with Gu Yuan was unusual. Over there, Gu Yuan was helping someone check a machine. The customer, seeing me look familiar, mistook me for the internet cafe manager and bossed me around. "Boss lady, go make a bowl of instant noodles." That boss lady really made me feel good, so I immediately skipped off to make the instant noodles. I happened to bump into that girl from earlier. Her expression was a bit unnatural. She hesitated for a moment, then quietly asked me, "Are you Gu Yuan's girlfriend?" I thought for a moment and replied, "No." She immediately revealed a light smile, as if relieved, smiled at me and then turned and left. This girl definitely 100 likes Gu Yuan. Does Gu Yuan know that? Someone as shrewd as him wouldn't not know, right? Then what was his attitude? For the rest of the time, I felt inexplicably annoyed whenever I thought about this. Gu Yuan had a familiar circle. They, regardless of gender, all shared a precious, familiar past. What I possessed was an unknown future, and standing beside them, I felt more like an outsider who couldn't easily fit in. The entire night, I was in a state of low pressure. Gu Yuan stumbled along behind me and suddenly asked, "Boss lady, what's wrong tonight?" I retorted, "Who are you calling boss lady?" Shameless, he seemed unable to hold back, a hint of a smile appearing at the corner of his mouth, mimicking my tone. "Don't think I don't know, when others called you boss lady, you were probably ecstatic, weren't you?" I was so angry I wished I could go up and give him a big slap. "Gu Yuan, are you sick?" He laughed and said, "Yes, I'm sick. It'll be fine if you just scold me." I was speechless, so angry that I threw my head and walked away. He followed, maintaining the same pace as me, walking unhurriedly behind. "They grew up with me in the same alley since childhood, they're all friends, don't overthink it." He suddenly said something out of the blue. My heart brightened. Gu Yuan, this dog, still had some conscience, he even knew to coax me. I turned my head, crossed my arms over my chest, and said arrogantly, "Who's overthinking? I think you're overthinking." "Oh, wow." Gu Yuan feigned a gesture, reaching out to slap his own mouth. "Look at me, I'm really too cheap." I snorted, "You are, why are you explaining to me? It makes it seem like I really care." He reined in his smile, his dark pupils shimmering softly under the moonlight. "Why do you think I am?" Gu Yuan being serious was truly fatal. How would I know? He still smiled like that, his tone light. "You know Su Kaio Kao." I immediately panicked. What I knew, was it the same as what he wanted to say? Unable to bear this ambiguous atmosphere, I hurriedly blurted out another question. "Let's not talk about that first. Let me ask you first, what's your relationship with that girl sitting in the corner today?" "Which one?" He feigned recollection. Was it the long-legged older sister or the cute little sister with the high ponytail? I glared at him. "She doesn't have a name, does she?" He stifled a laugh. "Isn't it because I'm afraid you don't know her name?" Lamb Twindy tonight, Gu Yuan seemed to have taken the wrong medicine, constantly finding ways to bully me. I gritted my teeth. "I don't want to know now, you can just keep it to yourself." "Don't be like that." He was laughing so hard he could barely stand. "Can't I just tell you?" I covered my ears. I'm not listening. He leaned closer, pressing against my face, his voice very low, chuckling. Just pity me, please, it's uncomfortable to keep it bottled up inside. I was almost driven to exasperation by him. Men are indeed all dogs. Hurry up and tell me. There's no relationship between us. If I absolutely had to say, he paused, we can only be considered former friends. I had a hunch that the girl was connected to Gu Yuan dropping out of school. Later, it was indeed confirmed this girl was the female lead in that incident. The girl's name was Li Moli, and she and Gu Yuan could be considered childhood sweethearts. Her parents were divorced, and her mother's personal life was chaotic. Both of them relied on their lovers for support, so her mother naturally didn't care much for her. When she had no food and nowhere to go, Gu Yuan's family took her in. But for someone who lacked love, even a little kindness would be infinitely magnified and clung to like a life-saving straw. Li Moli fell for Gu Yuan without hesitation. It was a vague, shallow, and vain kind of affection. Every time Gu Yuan came to the classroom to bring her things, she would shyly and privately introduce him to her classmates, saying that Gu Yuan was her boyfriend. At that time, Gu Yuan hadn't dropped out yet. He was excellent in his studies, handsome, and kind to others, truly deserving the title of school heartthrob. Being liked and noticed by such a person made Li Moli, who previously had little presence in class, begin to be envied. A female student in the class was unconvinced and went to Gu Yuan to verify, satisfactorily receiving the answer, just a good friend, a neighbor's younger sister. In a short time, sarcasm and ridicule followed. Li Moli couldn't bear it and found Gu Yuan, asking him to agree to be her boyfriend, but he refused with the same reason. In a moment of desperation, she impulsively did something irreversible. She took off her clothes in front of Gu Yuan. However, this scene was coincidentally witnessed by several classmates who had suddenly returned to school. In that era, when social customs were still relatively simple, the incident of a senior student molesting a junior student was simply sensational news. In a short time, discussions in the school were fervent, even directly alarming the principal. Facing everyone's inquiries, Li Moli merely remained silent, indirectly acquiescing to everyone's suspicions about Gu Yuan. Facing such slander, speaking the truth might not necessarily be believed, and Li Moli would also find it difficult to escape public criticism. In the end, Gu Yuan neither defended himself nor clarified, but calmly accepted the school's disciplinary action and calmly accepted the betrayal from his friends. Although he didn't feel heartache for himself, I did. Why should my husband be inexplicably slandered and have his future ruined? This time, if it's me, I definitely won't let him suffer this grievance. The second semester of sophomore year was gradually approaching its end. After breaking up with He Yurin, my popularity in school also soared. But along with that, my subsequent academic performance was also discussed. I originally had a foundation for the college entrance examination. Because I worked in foreign trade, my English skills had improved rather than declined, and picking up other subjects with a bit of effort was not difficult. My previous test scores were hidden, but now I unleashed my full potential, easily standing out in various joint exams, becoming the biggest dark horse. In a short time, the teachers in the class treated me like a treasure, and my classmates looked forward to my reliable exam prediction papers. Life couldn't have been better. But what surprised me was that He Yurin, such an arrogant person, would actually take the initiative to talk to me. What's wrong? Aren't you afraid Zhao Meimai will get angry? Without that strange relationship from before, my conversation with him was much lighter. He Yurin, however, just stubbornly looked at me and asked, "Why did you break up with me?" I found it amusing. Why? Don't you know perfectly well yourself? I've already made it clear to Meimai we're just friends. His expression softened a bit and he pursed his lips, and during this time I really missed you. Missed me? I sneered. Are you missing my breakfast or my exam prediction papers? Or are you saying you missed the days when someone surrounded you and treated you like a god? Su Kaio Keo, I like you. He Yurin's eyes were red with emotion when he said this. With my grades at the time, I didn't need that notebook at all. Every word inside was written by me for you. Every item you gave me, I've kept well. Every word you said, I remember. Oh, really? I moved a little closer, looking directly at him. If you liked me, why were you so cold to me in front of others? If you liked me, why did you refuse to admit it when classmates asked you back then? He Yuren's mouth opened and closed uselessly, saying nothing. Can't say it right, I'll answer for you. Because what you liked was the dazzling Sukayokeo, the astonishing Sukayokeo, the Sukayokeo who could make others cast envious glances at you, not the isolated, embarrassed female classmate from before. Your liking is cheap, hypocritical, selfish, weak, and worthless. Lamtwindi, everything you did was just to move yourself, to allow yourself to enjoy my kindness towards you with a clear conscience. I never understood, was liking Zhao Momo a political choice? Was liking me so difficult to admit? But liking someone has never been something to be ashamed of admitting. Even if Gu Yuan dropped out of school now, even if he was imprisoned before, I still felt that liking him was not something that needed to be hidden. As long as he was worthy of being loved, then he deserved my affection. And now it's my turn not to need you. A defeated opponent who can't be presented, there's really nothing to be nostalgic about. Don't you agree? Perhaps my attitude provoked He Yuren, because in the days that followed, I could see him studying with all his might, as if he wanted to avenge the humiliation of that day. Meanwhile, Zhao Meimai's situation was even less optimistic. Ever since the malicious scheme she orchestrated against me was exposed, everyone had been discussing her animatedly. Moreover, I no longer acted like a spendthrift, accompanying her to gatherings, so she found it difficult to continue her previous social activities with her limited money, and people gossiped behind her back about her pretending to be generous without money. Slowly, the people who had surrounded her shifted to my side. For a short period, she even seemed to feel a sense of loneliness. She also noticed my change and no longer used her manipulative words to trick me like before, treating me like a fool. But everything came to a head on the day He Yuren proactively brought me breakfast. He Yuren, whether he was missing a screw in his head or something, insisted on stuffing the breakfast into my hand, despite Zhao Meimai's eyes, which were so jealous they looked like they wanted to kill someone. Sure enough, taking advantage of a break during physical education class, Zhao Meimai finally stopped me. Of course, I didn't refuse. In the empty classroom, she revealed her true face. What exactly did you say to He Yuren? How could he suddenly bring you breakfast? I looked at her coldly. Before asking questions, shouldn't you apologize to me first? Apologize? Why? Zhao Meimai lifted her chin and looked at me. What did I do wrong? Is there something wrong with your brain? Don't you like He Yuren? Don't you want to attend gatherings? Don't you want to be friends with them? What a joke. If you hadn't incited discord, I wouldn't have gotten sick at all, and I wouldn't have needed to do any of that to become friends with others. Zhao Meimai, you almost ruined half my life. How can you still have the nerve to say such things? Heh heh, yes, you basically don't need to do much to get all of this. You were born into a respectable family, you have money, good grades, you're beautiful, and you can easily snatch everything from me. So is it wrong for me to take back what originally belonged to me? I laughed in anger. Nothing is destined to belong to anyone. If you want something, you can strive for it yourself, instead of treating me like a fool behind my back. That's because you're stupid. Her emotions were already starting to get a bit agitated. You have everything I want now, why do you still want to snatch He Yuren away? Looking at Zhao Meimai, whose eyes were filled with jealousy, I suddenly understood her intention when she called me to go to the internet cafe before. At that time, she had already noticed signs that He Yuren liked me. So she called and tricked me into going to a bar, a place that was considered disreputable at the time, to make He Yuren misunderstand that I was actually a disreputable person. It was because of her ridiculous jealousy and malice that Gu Yuan and I suffered an undeserved calamity. I sneered, almost maliciously saying, "Put your mind at ease. This isn't a garbage recycling station. I hope more than anyone that you two will be locked together for life and never separate. Don't pretend to be noble. Don't you think I know how much you used to like He Yuren?" Zhao Meimai's tone was so certain, as if she understood me so well. I didn't even lift my eyes. To be honest, seeing you two makes me want to vomit. Zhao Meimai's face turned green with anger. Just then, a trembling knock finally came from outside the door, and several classmates peeked out from behind the door with somewhat embarrassed expressions. Physical education class has been changed to math class. A joyful sigh escaped my heart. I had heard that morning that the physics teacher wanted to take over this physical education class, and thankfully, she didn't disappoint my expectations. The expression on Zhao Meimai's face finally couldn't be maintained. She, a gentle, generous, and popular little green tea, was caught completely off guard, revealing her other side in front of her classmates. I enjoyed her panic and despair, finding it quite interesting. The final exams were approaching quickly, and I was busy with my studies, so I hadn't gone to see Gu Yuan for over a week. It was at times like these that I could truly feel the sensation of horses and carriages being very slow in the past. In the past, the internet was not very developed, so if I didn't go out to find him, we couldn't even exchange a word. When I arrived at Gu Yuan's internet cafe, he was wearing a tank top, with his legs crossed, lying on a chair reading a book. His pant legs were folded up to his thighs, and his shirt was unceremoniously rolled up at the hem. Very good, this kind of scoundrel-like aura was truly mastered by him. I found a seat and sat down, feigning a cough. "Boss, a bottle of water." Gu Yuan quickly turned his head, his eyes fixed directly on me. I smiled brightly at him. "Don't be scared, I'm paying today." I wondered if I was mistaken, but I seemed to see a fleeting, slightly awkward smile flash across Gu Yuan's face. He picked up a bottle of water and shuffled towards me in his slippers, seemingly nonchalantly. He spoke, pretending to be very casual. "You haven't been here for a while." "Is it that obvious? You didn't count the days, did you?" I was secretly pleased. He chuckled faintly. "I figured it out by deduction." After a moment I reacted. "You're implying I'm a freeloader." He walked ahead and I followed behind, carrying my bag. Entering the private room, he suddenly stopped, turned his back and closed the door. "What are you following me for?" I craned my neck. "To do homework, what else?" He smiled, leaning against the door like a hooligan. "A single man and a single woman, how big is your heart to be so unguarded? I trust you as a person." I glared at him, pointing at him. "Don't gloat when you get a good deal, huh?" "I got a good deal." He pointed at himself in disbelief, then laughed happily. "All right, I served you well with food and drink, and it turns out I'm the one who got a good deal." I covered my mouth and snickered. Indeed, it was a level of unreasonableness that even I felt. After doing some homework, I went out to find Gu Yuan to get something to eat. With a casual glance, I saw Li Moli sitting in that familiar corner again today. I poked his shoulder. "Does she come to the internet cafe to do homework every day?" Gu Yuan didn't know yet that I was aware of their story, he just nodded faintly. "Her home isn't much better than here." "Oh, then you should still charge her for internet usage." "No need." He walked away. Well, a pitiful person must have something hateful about them. He's been harmed like that, and he still doesn't charge her for internet. Because I deliberately wanted to get close to Li Moli, I proactively showed her kindness. "It's too noisy outside. Do you want to come to the private room to do homework?" Li Moli looked at me with some surprise, not speaking. "I don't have any other intentions. I just feel bored and want to pull someone along. I see from your clothes that you're a student from number 2 middle school, right? I'm also transferring there next semester, so consider it getting to know each other in advance." "Is that?" "Not good." She was still hesitating. I patted my chest. "There's nothing bad about it. Don't worry, I paid for this private room, so it's no problem to squeeze in a few more people." I don't know if the private room was too appealing or if I was too friendly, but Li Moli finally accepted my invitation. I told her that I was Gu Yuan's distant relative who had come to a city last year. My parents were busy with work, and I was relatively bored staying at home, so I often came here with friends to join the fun. "I see your relationship with the young boss is pretty good. You often come to his internet cafe." Li Moli stammered for a while before replying. "We're neighbors who grew up together since childhood." "Oh. Is that so?" At that time, Gu Yuan's book hadn't been put away yet, still lying flat on the table. I spoke calmly. "Since you're his neighbor, you must know him very well. I've actually always been curious why Gu Yuan was expelled. I asked him before, but he never said anything." Li Moli's expression suddenly stiffened. Actually, I'm not very clear either." "Oh, it's nothing. I just asked casually. After all, he's such a studious person, being expelled must not have been easy." I successfully saw a hint of guilt on her face. It seemed she belonged to the type with a conscience, but not much of it. I spent an hour with her in the private room, my social butterfly syndrome taking over. I constantly exuded charm, taught her how to solve problems, helped her get water, and shared a lot about the outside world, finally narrowing the distance between us. Gu Yuan came in to deliver water just as he caught us laughing together. He glanced at Li Moli beside me, showing no particular reaction to her presence there. He just said to me faintly, "It's late, I'll take you back." Before leaving, I made a plan with Lee Moley to continue our final exam review here tomorrow. Lee Moley, however, just timidly looked at Gu Yuan, not daring to shake her head or nod. Lam Twindi, what are you looking at him for? I'm in charge here. I winked at Lee Moley. Gu Yuan shook his head, didn't reply, and immediately walked out. Before leaving, he threw out a sentence. Remember to clean up the desk. This meant he reluctantly agreed. On the way home, my heart was filled with enthusiasm to help him clear his name, and I stared at him with shining eyes. Gu Yuan, do you want to continue studying? Gu Yuan was first startled, then averted his gaze. Why ask that? Just tell me if you want to, I can find a way to let you continue. Su Kaio Kao. He suddenly interrupted me. Actually, I'm doing quite well now. I know your family's financial situation is good, but you don't need to deliberately do anything for me. Looking at him, I seemed to see Gu Yuan 20 years later. At that time, he said, you don't need to do anything for me, you just need to stand here, and I will have the confidence to move forward. I was a little touched. So I picked at my fingernails and replied, actually, I just asked, I wasn't planning on doing anything. Gu Yuan was amused. You're really good at finding an excuse to back down. Oh, otherwise what? Do you really think of yourself as my husband? He licked his molars, then grabbed me by the collar, staring at me like a little hooligan. All right. Then, Miss Su, can you tell me when my internet cafe will be run by someone else? I spoke defiantly. I just said it casually. It was a slip of the tongue, understand? Who do you think would care about your little broken internet cafe? Then, I really thank you. If it weren't for you letting me have it, my dad's internet cafe might not have been passed down to me. I fiercely hit him. You just keep running your mouth. Only a dog would fancy you. Until the final exams a few days later, I was at the internet cafe studying with Lee Moley. I found that, in fact, ever since the incident between her and Gu Yuan, she had been greatly affected. Someone had exposed her family situation, and people mocked and ridiculed her behind her back. Moreover, because she had previously lied about being Gu Yuan's girlfriend, the class harbored a lot of ill will towards her, and hardly anyone was willing to be friends with her. So my feelings for her were actually very complex. On one hand, I felt sorry for and sympathized with her, but on the other hand, I felt that she was reaping what she had sown. This complex emotion continued until I went to enroll at No. 2 high school. I performed very well in the final exams, achieving the second-best score in the entire city in the joint final examination. Then, amidst the sighs and reluctance of my teachers and classmates, I turned around and entered No. 2 high school, becoming classmates with Lee Moley. I became one of her few friends. I often, unknowingly, tried to educate her, inadvertently mentioning Gu Yuan's difficulties and his yearning for learning. But every time she listened, although her emotions were agitated, she never showed any other signs. That's right, who isn't selfish? For her, admitting her mistakes would only lead to curses and accusations 100 or 1,000 times more severe than what she was currently facing. Admitting a mistake itself requires courage. Gradually, she also began to open up to me, confiding some of the grievances she had suffered. I would also talk about Zhao Momo, about He Yurin, about the loneliness and confusion I felt at the time, and about my own pain and hurt. I just never thought that those pains I once believed would never be healed would one day be able to be spoken of calmly. So, have you forgiven them? I smiled. Of course not. They never felt they did anything wrong, never repented, and are simply not worthy of my forgiveness. Lee Moley's lips trembled. Maybe they didn't do it on purpose. If it wasn't on purpose, then at least an apology is required, right? Admitting one's mistakes, isn't that the prerequisite for gaining others' forgiveness? What's more, many times, taking this step brings more liberation for one's own heart. Lee Moley said nothing. I tried to slow my voice. Actually, a few days ago, I already heard about your situation with Gu Yuan from someone else. I know you're also suffering greatly and it's not easy, but what did Gu Yuan do wrong? He treated you like his own sister, and in the end, he was willing to drop out of school without defending himself even once. Moley, people need to have a conscience. I know. She suddenly broke down emotionally and buried her face in her hands. I know. But I don't dare to imagine what everyone will think of me, how they will treat me, if I admit it. I was really possessed by a devil at that time. I never thought of making Gu Yuan drop out. I really didn't do it on purpose. I clearly hate becoming that kind of person. That kind of person she mentioned should be her mother. I quietly watched the girl sobbing on the floor in front of me and suddenly felt a mix of emotions. If you're willing to tell the truth, I can ask my dad to arrange a transfer for you. You can go to a school further away, and we can still be good friends, and Gu Yuan will also forgive you. I'm so sorry, I can't do it. I don't dare, I really don't dare. The girl's eyes were red from crying. Do you know how awful they curse behind my back? I really owe Yuanji for this matter. I will always remember this kindness. It was only at this moment that I truly understood that this somewhat timid and somewhat selfish little girl found it very difficult to take that step. I patted the recorder in my backpack, determined to be a bad person for once. I handed the recording and a petition written in Lee Moley's tone to the school leadership. Not long after, the school broadcast aired the first announcement, clarifying the incident at the time and revoking the compulsory expulsion penalty against Gu Yuan. And Lee Moley finally paid the price for her mistake. On the day the broadcast aired, I originally wanted to take the notice to give Gu Yuan a surprise, but I happened to run into his group of friends jumping around excitedly at the internet cafe. They were all students from No. 2 high school, and after school, they ran faster than me and had already delivered the news. In addition, because my petition was written so excellently, the head of the Chinese language group couldn't help but praise it in class, and the news spread with a lot of buzz. Things like beautiful top student upholding justice, petition written like a full-score essay. In short, it was quite exaggerated. But I'm a country bumpkin, I like to hear it. I was about to walk in and accept everyone's flattery, but just as I stepped inside, Gu Yuan, with sharp eyes, stood up. Lam Tuandi, I'll take you back. Me, but I just arrived. A commotion came from behind, and I had no doubt that if I didn't call a halt, he could drag me for 2 miles. What are you doing, Shy? I mocked him unreservedly. No, I'm not. He rubbed his nose, playing the rogue. He laughed to himself for a moment, then said, I just didn't expect that you would really take this matter to heart. Gu Yuan was such a thoughtless person. He valued any kindness others showed him more than anything. That's because you've also done a lot for me. Now it's my turn to do something for you. Indeed, serving tea and pouring water, which of these wasn't done by hand? Me, excuse me, is a motion forbidden here. So, will you go back to school then? Of course, how could I not go? Otherwise, how will I be worthy of my college graduate wife in the future? Who wants to be your wife? Whoever wants to be can be, anyway, it won't be you. Your mother, why can't it be me? Oh, so you want to be? You're full of shit. Under the twilight, the boy followed behind the girl, walking further and further down the wide road. We both knew that no matter how the past and future changed, our love would remain eternal and unchanging. We appreciate you listening to the story at Audio Love Tales. Kindly like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content.